Loading Innovation Markets platform.
Good evening, innovators, and welcome back to another cryptocurrency outlook. It's been a while, 3 weeks since the last video. However, as always, I had to wait for a little bit of movement before jumping into a video because, of course, we cannot compromise the members' content. Now, I hope everyone's been well. I hope everyone's had a lovely start to the new year's. And as the title of the video says, as you guys have been informed from the community posts, we are currently sitting at 100k profit, pretty much banked from the XRP play to kickstart 2022. So we're in an incredibly fortunate position right now. And I've been looking forward to doing this breakdown because over the past 2 weeks in particular, we have seen a particular set of price structures and confirmations that for me are preparing us now for another serious leg to the downside. Now, throughout each video I do, no matter what I do, even when it comes through, people will dislike the idea that I'm saying the market can go down. So naturally, in this video, as maybe a disclaimer, if you don't like hearing the possibilities and the reality that your investments are going to go against you, I would advise turning this off and go and watch another influencer's video who will promise you the world and 100k BTC tomorrow. Unfortunately, over here at Innovation Markets, it doesn't work in that way. We prefer to play devil's advocate and bring you a bit of realism, which, as you can probably see right now, has slowly started to hopefully aid a lot of people's investment careers. Now, anyone that has been following us throughout this journey so far, as time has slowly started unfolding, hopefully you can kind of see now the point I was trying to get across at the time, where the market was incredibly bullish and it was incredibly hard to kind of understand or even believe that such a possibility could occur, that the market would be back down where it was. Now, at this present point in time, I'm going to show you a few things that I believe is now the key indicator to the market potentially breaking much lower. And in particular, I'm currently looking at around a 20k BTC. Not going to give the exact level, but I do believe we are going to breach the 30k support floor. I'm going to be breaking down a bit of a reason why. And in fact, it's very simple, classic trend lines and Fibonacci, which has been guiding us throughout this entire cycle. Now, where we currently are in the market, as I can now discuss because the move has played out, as we started approaching this area on BTC, around $34,000, and in particular XRP, which I know you guys love to know about, hear about, and analyze and break down, which is of course one of the main reasons why we've done this XRP journey, because we are all part of the same community. However, my goal is to turn the XR community away from the kind of hopium and the euphoria that the court case will be settled in the next 4 hours. Brad Garlinghouse is going to come out as the president. You know, we have to kind of deter away from those theories and instead just be rational with our investments. You know, the goal here, and one thing that I've really started to get back into over the past few months in particular, is focusing specifically on XRP. There's a massive misconception in the market where you need to be successful by having 17 different monitors, you know, all of these different iPads and all this different tech and gadgets, indicators, and holding an abundance of shitcoins in hopes that one of them will explode. The goal here is to accumulate as much cryptocurrency as possible in maybe a handful of coins. If you don't want to hold just one and you find value in several different projects, by all means necessary, do so. Now, when it comes to being bullish, I said this on Twitter the other day, I am not bullish until the market is at the absolute lows. That is when you should be bullish. And what we kind of showed you guys with the XRP journey, just to update you as well on the current situation, we're just sitting over $400,000. We now have around $350,000 banked, and we still have 79,000 XRP remaining. And we also have a major L over here, which is F being staked, which I've done as an example for why I do not agree with staking. I just don't agree with staking in any of that stuff, to be honest with you, because I could have better utilized that capital to actually buy and sell dips instead. But we do have some F staked here that I've done for an example purpose in the app for a tutorial. But besides that, focusing on the XRP, there's 79,000 remaining, currently valued at around $60,300. And as you can see now quite clearly, the profit taken is worth significantly more than the remaining XRP left in the pot, which is what I was trying to get to slowly but surely as the market was going higher. But now you can kind of understand what I was getting to when I said that eventually, as the market goes lower, your profit banked should be significantly higher than what your holdings are in the market. Now, just remember, this is the active trading pot. My actual HODL portfolio, which is a significant amount of XRP in comparison to what I show publicly, hasn't actually been touched. And the reason why I have that affordability to hodl on one portfolio is because I'm still generating a profit on this active trading portfolio, which we're publicizing for you guys. So in theory, I'm probably one of the strongest hodlers out there, if anything, because a lot of people hodl, but they make no money. But what I'm trying to teach you guys here is that you can perfectly hodl on the side and let one portfolio fluctuate in value. Shit, you don't even need to sell. Just hodl if you want. But you still need to be generating a profit and kind of capitalizing off these beautiful opportunities that the market's providing. Now, my goal at the moment is to reduce this down to 50,000 XRP and in fact get rid of all of it. I don't care for this XRP anymore. I want this out the market entirely because I think a lot worse is coming to follow. Now, to kickstart, going over to XRP. Now, what I said to the members was, first and foremost, we were waiting and hoping we could get a break below 60 cents to start buying in at lower prices. Now, we obviously rejected this level, driving up higher. However, we prepared for this, and as you guys know, if something doesn't work out, I've already mapped out what could happen on the opposing side in advance. It's not because I don't know what's going to happen next, it's because I want to prepare myself for the unexpected. And when that situation occurs, I utilize that to capitalize. Whereas most people would be so focused, for example, on a bull run, that they never take profits because they expect it to continue going higher. However, whilst my overall projections are still the same, I still believe we're going much lower, and we're going to see how that will all play out in a minute. At the same time, I covered if we didn't break this floor, we are likely going to prepare to then break this floor more severely, which is exactly what's happened now. And what I wanted to see if we didn't break this floor was a significant pump higher towards the 80-90 cents region, where I took profit, and I'm going to show you that in a minute as well. We sniped an absolutely flawless sell yet again at this point in time, going off the $1 sell as well. So what I expected to happen at this point in time, now number one of the key metrics, and this played out absolutely flawlessly, the members can testify, we had this in extreme fear. Naturally, that's going to happen, the fear and greed index, when the market is pushing to these levels. Now, what we expected upon a pullback higher was the fear and greed index to tip back into a neutral standpoint, which is now exactly what we've seen following the drive higher. And once we have now lowered again, we're back in fear, which is understandable because I think a lot worse could potentially be following. Now, the reason why I wanted to see this pump higher is number one, to take more profit off the table. And as I kind of said before, when the market is in a bearish cycle, which it currently is, and anyone that denies that is quite deluded at this point in time, every swing higher is likely preparation for a new leg lower, at least in this current cycle, which, as we can clearly see, this is clearly the case, especially on BTC and XRP, where we can see little mini swings, barely any bullish momentum, straight downside moves. And the problem is at the moment, and one thing I've realized now, is that most people are looking at the markets from simply a bullish perspective, which is incorrect. Now, if you're looking at the market from a bullish perspective, if I get the interest zone open, you're only going to see bullish possibilities. However, if you're not factoring in what's actually going on in the market right now, you're going to miss what could potentially be coming instead. The problem is when you're only focusing on bullish indicators, all you're doing is just mapping out anything you can physically find to try and predict the next bullish breakout. And the problem is with the market in the present stage is most people are looking at any level of support as a means for the bull run to kickstart, which is why we needed, in my opinion, a drive higher over here once support was met, exactly within this region. Because what this has now allowed is it's number one, created more liquidity down below, naturally, as we expect. In a market like this where everyone's expecting the most parabolic bull run in the world, they are going to start buying at the local levels of support. Key level of support that everyone knows has obviously held a significant swing before. So just think, from this point in time, number one, there's a huge amount of stop losses down below here anyway from the original swing. Now factor in a secondary retest, we are adding to the pool of liquidity located down below this support floor. And in theory, all the way down to the lows here of around 20 cents, there is a huge amount of empty space where stop losses will be located even from these bullish rises over here. So in theory, what we have now seen, and what many people are probably disregarding, is overall, from this point in time, and again, altcoins are a great example here, from April, May 2021, altcoins have been in a bear market. They've peaked, despite a few that may have outperformed. One of our members' coins done 500% the other day, but overall, altcoins are in a bear market right now. There is no, and you know, when people are still saying 100k BTC, we have to be realistic with ourselves in this moment. Now, BTC, as you guys know, there's a clear head and shoulders up here. So I still can't disregard that this may come into a head and shoulders region before going all the way down. Cannot disregard that. And I'll look for the buys to kind of alleviate that. And the purpose behind having this mapped out in advance is because I'm not going to sell everything just yet. Because if we do come up to the head and shoulders beforehand, we know there's a huge possibility the sell-off will be more severe. However, at this point in time, I personally don't see 60, 65k coming back just yet. And in fact, for this cycle, I would say it's quite unlikely at this point in time. Now, what we've had over here is a huge bleed out, especially on XRP, BTC, FLTC. XRP in particular, bleeding out, bleeding out, bleeding out. Now, once we've come into this level, a single pump, obviously artificially created, as with any other move in the market, it's luring in buyers. And what we have now seen, if we go to the daily, is a huge surge pumping up to create a new swing low at this point in time. Now, personally, there's going to be a lot of activity around this area, I believe, where price will likely try and fish out some of these highs, or at least retest before going lower. However, overall, at the bare minimum, I do believe we should be heading back towards the 60 cents range. But for me personally, I do not believe we are going to go much higher yet. I have mapped out a few levels up above where I'm not going to take all the profit off the table yet, just in case we go higher. But overall, I would say where the market currently is disgustingly critical right now. Because BTC and F in particular, especially if we look at the lows over here of 30k, BTC hasn't returned to this level yet. We have reversed from around 35k. Factoring in the wick fishing down to 33k, there's a crucial level of support over here. Now, if we go to the upside, in theory, BTC is currently in a range, which is why I'm not disregarding this level, because overall, it could just swing, it could just range bound. This is a whole different cycle now. I'm not here to predict the future 100%, but I'm here to prepare for the future and make sure I'm capitalizing with a profit every step of the way. Now, what we can see over here when the high was created, we had that drive down, which has now created the support level for this range. We then drove all the way back up. We have now taken out the highs and liquidated and started coming lower. Now, this swing over here, in my opinion, was a clear trap because we haven't hit the crucial support floor. And where this is currently reversed from, granted, it is still a level of support, but I wouldn't say it's a critical level. And it doesn't seem like a necessary or justified level to kickstart another parabolic bull run into, you know, the 100k region. At this point in time, at the bare minimum, we need to kind of see 30k next, in my opinion. And in fact, considering what I've just covered over here, the amount of liquidations down below is disgusting. The first surge was huge from these levels. Ethereum's the same. It did not come all the way down into the support floor over here. It just fell short. So that tells me there's an incredible risk at the bare minimum that 2k should be met next alongside 30k BTC. LTC, we'll get to that in a moment, because this is actually giving me much stronger signs as to why the market's probably going to absolutely die at any given moment. But one thing you need to look at psychologically here is everyone's just simply looking at support, because that's all people know. A lot of the people that are incredibly bullish or are kind of attracted to that moon boy mindset, it's very simple. Double bottom, we're going to moon. But no, look at the overall momentum. Huge pump up, couldn't break the high, counteracted, tried to pump up, got swung down again, came up short term, got taken down again. The same is now occurring in this present moment. Now, considering this is meant to be such a critical level, we would expect a huge blow through the roof pretty much from this point, all from here, because if this was meant to be such a strong level with all these buyers, why haven't we exploded yet? And in theory, if we are still in this alleged bull market, in what kind of bull market do you see altcoins going down for an entire year pretty much? That doesn't scream a parabolic bull run to me. That screams an entirely different cycle shifting into play. And one thing I said early on was we're not going to realize we're in a bear market until it's too late. Now, at the moment, not everything is technically in a bull market. I mean, theoretically, Ether and BTC are still a very long way down from the lows. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but they are still very far away. Altcoins on the opposing side are in a completely different situation. And most of them now are literally a single break lower away from achieving those downside targets I was telling you about when we were at the market highs. even before we reached the market highs. You know, I actually even said, I think it was around here, when I first shorted BTC at 16k, I think I said I expect it to come back eventually to 10k or lower. And that remains in the back of my mind the entire time it goes higher. And because I kind of just prepare for this in advance, that's why I can ride these waves and take that profit off the table. Now, going over here to Kraken, we can start to see how things are playing out. Now, again, just giving you a bit of a breakdown throughout the entire journey. Now, one thing you would have mentioned, or one thing which hopefully would have noted that I said earlier, is that I'm only bullish when the market is at the very lows. That's because no one else is bullish at that point in time. And that for me is the most optimal, profitable time to get involved. So only here am I bullish. And for the rest of the way, I am simply a participant riding waves. People get bullish after we break out and get a confirmation. By then, it's far too late. So when you often see me predicting downside targets when the market's pumping, it's because I'm entering here. So I simply do not care what the hell it does throughout the process. But as you can now start to see as things are starting to play out, we have the sells, the buys, the sell, the buy, the sell. Going over here to the present day, this was a joke. Again, I don't know if I covered this in the last video, but there was $4 sold. I tweeted basically saying, guys, I've given up. I could sell all my holdings. It was a bad joke, but it kind of fucked up the overall cleanliness of the play. But going over here in December the 23rd, which is what kind of kick-started the first profit taking moving into the new year, we took off 50k at exactly $1, which turned out to be the precise market top. Fast forward to the present day, the exact same has happened again at 89 cents, where we took another 50k off the table. And at the present point in time, with that additional 29,000 XRP looking to be sold, it could give me anywhere from 25 or so $1,000 on top, which again is all looking to be utilized at a later date. Now, one thing that a lot of people have been saying is, you know, when I sold here, someone said, congratulations, you've just sold the bottom, goodbye. And I was just like, bro, seriously? But I always bring up what people say because the whole purpose of these videos is to get you guys to do the opposite of the herd. And whatever you've heard, you know, XRP will melt phases, XRP will shock the world. It will most definitely shock the world when this fucker dumps to the ground. And that's where you're going to see faces melted because the dream will be over. And it's always important to take into consideration what's actually going on in the market right now. So I'm in a very comfortable position at present. You know, an extra 100k banked, 350k at our disposal to reinvest back in the dip. And as we can remember, at around 15, 16 cents, we put in around $30,000. So at this present point in time, we now have $350,000 to utilize if we see similar levels approaching, higher or lower, whatever it may be. In my opinion, I personally think we're going to go lower than 10 cents to peak in this market bottom. Now, to explain that rationale, because I know people are probably thinking, here we go again, wacky guy talking nonsense. Let's talk about another wacky guy first and foremost, Mr. Sleepy Biden. Now, crypto executive order expected next week. As we know, the technicals essentially tell you what's going to happen next in the market anyway. So I prefer to stay away from all the fundamental rubbish because, as the market has clearly proven in this present stage, does it really matter what project's doing well or if there's partnerships? The market doesn't care. We're in a speculative phase. There is no utility driving this market at present. And as I've been covering for a very long time, I do not believe the utility run has truly started until this market has an absolute wipeout. The amount of interest we've had this year in terms of new capital, retail, moon boys, influencers, suddenly everyone's a crypto millionaire and expert in 2021. NFTs, DeFi, the metaverse, all of these hypes that we've seen occurring, that has been our alt run. That's what people are probably not realizing. That has been the alt season that has just come in a different shape or form, no different to the ICO phase in 2017. There is a burden and a kind of ideology where every person, or majority of people, are looking at alt season and looking at BTC 100k. These are traps. These are narratives that are employed to make you lose money. When do you ever go on Bloomberg and they tell you the correct news and make you money? When do you ever follow an influencer and they make you money? It's very, very rare. These people are not your friends. I always say this, and I'm always going to be assertive about this stuff. I don't care what anyone says. Bear market, bull market, I don't care. What I'm trying to get to here is, please be sensible, because the market is showing a very different sign right now. And if these levels are broken, especially for altcoins, my downside targets will likely be achieved in a flash, because we'll see a significant breakout. Now, the problem is with this level, it's kind of, in my opinion at the moment, giving people an illusion, same as BTC, that it is a level of support being held, so the bull market's going to continue. Understanding that number one, it could be a trap. Understanding number two, the overall market structure's down. And understanding that at present, this current swing has created a new lower high. It means we could likely see a huge surge to the downside. Now, this floor in particular, factoring in the liquidity as well, look at the same situation over here. A double top formed and everyone expected the opposite to happen. What did the market do? It ripped the living shit through this wall. Now flip this over to the opposing side. Let's flip the market upside down. A similar situation has occurred on a grander scale. Now again, the double top illusion could easily be a trap. And I think in theory, seeing this drive higher is exactly what we needed. Because again, we went back to neutral. We even went into the positive slightly on the fear and greed index. And that's because everyone seeking a bull run has now got their appetite whet once more. But the market knows this. And you have to remember, whatever the most common narrative is, please do the exact opposite. It isn't 100% sure, this kind of formula, but as you guys can now see over time, it's working and we're profitable in a bearish market and we're still making money even as the market goes down. As I said, you will never know truly until it's too late. And the problem here is if we break down below, it will be far too late for everyone who hasn't taken profit. So I hope you guys have taken something off the table, but clearing this off for a second as well. Again, also here, just to mention, the high has been liquidated, the low has not. We also know the low down here there's nothing here until 20k. So in theory, if this breaks, we have nowhere to go but 20k or so. And in theory, even down to 10k, all of that empty room I've covered in prior videos. But let's just be realistic for now and say 20k is likely what's going to be met if we break 30k. I mean, in theory, that makes perfect sense, but no one would be expecting it. So in theory, what I'm trying to say is I think we're going to 20k next. So getting rid of that for a second, going over to the CME futures chart. Now, this was mapped out perfectly. This played out unbelievably in synchronization with what we projected with the members and what we've been covering for a while in our analysis videos. The CME futures chart broke through, filled in the gap over here. We have now dipped up, or swung up, sorry. We've tapped into this level and we have now filled the 40k gap, which we have been expecting before even evaluating another potential upside move. Seeing this in itself come through, I wouldn't be surprised if we now trick people by swinging back up again before potentially dumping. But all of that intraday stuff to me is pretty irrelevant because overall, I expect us to go lower now. Now, what can we utilize alongside the 20k level as a bit of guidance for what may happen next? Well, if you look over to the left-hand side, we have the gap at around $23,800. We also have a gap at around $18,500. Now, if this floor breaks and you look at where we have the most logical level of support located down below, we have checkpoints of around $24,000 and $18,500. So in theory, we already have the blueprint for where we can go if we break lower. And considering how this trend is currently playing out, if we do break below these floors, there isn't really much else to go. CME future, BTC dominance, sorry. Now, pushing up a bit higher, it's gained some strength. As I covered in the last few videos, everyone here was going mad at me on Twitter, saying, you know, it's bearish, you're wrong, alt season's going to start. The market's clearly tricking you because it's coming to fill those wicks, as you would have seen from the wicks play tricks lesson, and it's potentially going to bolster higher. And I am currently looking at around 64%. I do feel if BTC drops, the dominance will likely surge and bring everything else down with it. Now, the total market cap it speaks for itself, really. I mean, A, B, C, Fibonacci retracement, broken support, turned resistance, third trend line retest. I mean, this is very, very clean price action. It's almost too good to be true. And I said this to the members the other day, you know, our analysis has played out so perfectly, it's almost suspicious how clean it currently is. But we can see easily with the Fibonacci extensions down below, 1.28 trillion, down to potentially the 850 billion region, even 800 billion. This is a crucial level to watch out for because the Fibonacci show the lower those retracements are, the more stronger that trend is. So clearly, as we can see even on the total market cap, you've just got to think right now. The market took out the highs, took out everyone, gave them another opportunity to sell, they didn't take profit. Now every swing higher has been minuscule in comparison to the severe downside that follows. So moving in line with this trend, you know, flip this chart upside down. What would you say if you saw that chart on the correct side? Of course you would say it was bullish. And if CT had this chart in the correct way, if the market was actually exactly like this right now on the correct side, you'd be seeing this chart all over Twitter. Everyone's screaming for the moon. So flip it upside down, it's quite clean structure at the moment, and I just cannot see any possible bullishness yet, at least until these levels are met. 30k BTC, 1.2 trillion market cap. You know, the market's bleeding out right now. And I got a bit carried away, but going back to Mr. Sleepy over here. So we have an executive order expected next week. Now, as we know, it's not always a guarantee it's going to work out. They will have 3 to 6 months to produce a regulatory report. At this current time in the market, where the market's going down, regulations are going to have a negative effect. Now, I've been saying this for a very long time. Regulations are coming. We cannot escape this. They are, you know, a necessity. I just stuttered from shock that people may even disagree with this, but regulations are necessary. And in my opinion, kind of factoring in that I do expect the market to absolutely bottom out worse than we saw in 2020, I think we will breach the 2020 lows for many coins. Now, the reason behind this is we want institutions, right? I don't really care personally, but everyone wants institutions because they want it to pump. And as everyone said, institutions are buying here. Well, clearly they're not. They're selling, and they've been dumping the market ever since. But we want institutions to jump on board. Now, only a fraction of these institutions are actually participating in the crypto market yet, simply due to the fact we do not have regulatory clarity. A lot of these entities do not want to participate until there is some form of legal framework around this entire market. Now, from what I can gather from this executive order, number one, hopefully he remembers by next week to actually sign off on this and go ahead with it, because I think this is absolutely necessary. And what I think this will play out by is quite simple. Now, if we start seeing regulations investigated or taken seriously, we have to start looking at the shitcoins. As I said, the Doges, the Shibas, you know, you can say they've got utility, but in theory, they're all junk. They have no real world utility. Now, Bitcoin is a bit of a gray area for me. If you've read the books, or the book, the second one's almost complete, you would know I'm not the biggest fan of BTC. And when we say, the irony here is, you know, a national, where was it again? It was a national security issue or something. Now that is, for me, is ridiculous, because the irony there is that the SHA-256 protocol and the cryptographic hash function was made by the NSA, the National Security Agency. So it's basically their product. And I would not be surprised, again, this is me just speculating, but I wouldn't be surprised if BTC has just been one major psyops, or at least some form of beta test to start implementing this technology later down the line. BTC as a whole, in my opinion, besides the whole narrative of store of wealth, this is based on speculation. BTC in its actual use case and utility is still not really available or efficient enough for real world demands. We know that. That's why I like XRP. Moving into the future, we can see it has a place in the world. However, if you strip away BTC's store of value narrative, you know, the future, 100k, and you look at what it's actually doing and what it's intended to do, it's not really performing how it should be. And I just wouldn't be surprised if this was just a massive psyops, to be honest with you. And they've probably got a backdoor to this technology. The NSA do not even use SHA-256 themselves anymore, which tells me they've either got a backdoor or they've already figured out how to crack it. So the irony here is, I believe all of this is just set up, basically. Everything's orchestrated anyway, we know that, but a lot of this stuff could get interesting when things get wiped out. Now, when I say the market's going to crash and die, people get offended because obviously they're overinvested and they don't want to lose money, they're scared. I think it's going to be the best thing possible if you play this correctly. XRP is an example. I do think we're going to break below 10 cents, to be honest with you. And what I think is going to happen with these regulations is, if the market dumps as regulations start coming into play, no one's going to want to get involved, especially if we go down below these lows. And don't say, I know people are going to jump on straight away, oh, we'll never see them prices again, it's impossible. Well, as you can see right now, what I've been saying is possible, and it's becoming a reality. So taking into consideration all of this situation now, if this is to happen, this is the perfect opportunity, because this is where I'll actually become a full-on moon boy, and I'll start putting my face with my mouth open on the thumbnails and saying, guys, we may never see these levels again, because I truly believe this wipeout could be the final wipeout before we actually go absolutely parabolic and coins with utility start to thrive. So when I say the market's going to die, please don't cry or get offended or report me or block me. Don't cry, basically. Because what I'm trying to say is, if we see this wipeout and you play this correctly, it actually makes perfect sense, because regulations will come in, the initial shockwave could scare the shit out of people, the market will start crashing, people will start panic selling, because if we break below these levels, the dream of 100k disappears and people will flock out quickly. Plus the margin calls, liquidations we're talking hundreds of billions potentially on the cards here in terms of wipeouts from liquidations. So factor in that all in. If this all comes through at the time regulatory action comes through, we may see the majority of this market wiped out in terms of shitcoins just gone, wiped off the face of the radar. And if you look back in time at things like Verge, do you remember when Verge was a massive hype? And now where's Verge? No one talks about it anymore. Coins like Solana, Sand, all that stuff. There is always a new hype, a new trend, a bit like NFTs. The biggest hyping trend at the moment. Is it still going to be as exciting in 3-4 years time? Is anyone going to be willing to pay millions for a monkey? I don't know. Maybe they will, but I don't think they will. So what we've got to understand here is, because of the euphoria that's gone into this market in the present stage, seeing regulations come in will likely cause a big shockwave, as we even saw with the SEC situation. However, this will likely be conveniently timed, as it always is, with the market bottoms. And if that's to be the case, I'm going to buy as much as I physically can. Plus, we're going to be putting another 100k or so each, maybe 200k each, myself and Bernie, on top of this as well. Because if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it properly. Put my money where my mouth is. As you guys have seen, we have done this entire way now. And if we break down lower, we've executed another flawless sell, ready to buy the bad boy dips. Now, if this is going to happen, you have to realize these institutions are still on the sidelines, the majority of them. We've had a few participants here and there, but the majority, the real ones that can move this market, they are not going to touch this with a barge pole until regulations come through. Now, think psychologically for a second. First of all, everyone said institutions are buying here, which reality has proven the opposite of. Now, if you're an institution and you would potentially, again, crypto, wealth shift, it's only a wealth shift for the elite. If you're not playing this the way we're playing this, you're not going to make any money and the elite are going to win. This is their game. We're simply participating in it. You need to realize this could be the biggest wealth shift in the world, but not for us, for them, to make them wealthier. And that's what concerns me. And that's why we have to take profits, because they are driving you into euphoria and hopium to hold forever, where they may be doing some crazy stuff beforehand that's going to benefit themselves further. And my theory is, at the moment, if we see these regulations come through and we bottom, that's where the regulatory green light goes ahead and the institutions jump on board. So that's one thing we need to take into consideration. If I was an institution, I'm not going to buy BTC at 40k. The institutions that are buying, they're buying and selling quickly because they're investing so much money. And that's why they're hedging with the futures. And as you can now see, Michael Saylor and everyone else, Michael Saylor, if you actually read the terms of MicroStrategy, I actually believe he bought the tops to write off his tax bill. I actually believe those investments were a tax write-off to minimize his losses, or maximize his losses in theory. So I would take into consideration, these people are not, just because Michael Saylor buys here doesn't mean you should do so. He's probably just trying to write off some taxes and he can afford to do so, but we cannot afford to do so. This is an incredible opportunity of a lifetime, and you've had many opportunities of a lifetime here to capitalize. And I think we need to realize the severity of where we are in this market right now. And the most simplistic way I can probably show you that is by simply plotting some trend lines over here that I don't think anyone's really taken into consideration, to be honest with you, which is a little terrifying. But we had this mapped out with the members, and seeing this currently come through has littered me with joy beyond belief. Now let's go over to the weekly XRP. You're going to see a flawless series of plays over here, besides LTC, which is being a little bit of a bum. However, it still worked out all right. I mean, there's not really a perfect trend line on this, but you can cut it through regardless from wick to wick. Now, you need to realize that what is currently going on here is very different to what other people are probably seeing. And maybe I am just insane for looking at the market in this way, but we have broken the bullish trend lines that were the key indicators for this market. And this is very clearly illustrated by how this worked out, because everyone was watching these trend lines. Again, I can tweak it a bit more if necessary, but you catch my drift. We drove down, everyone screaming trend line, buy, 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 support. It got annihilated. That now invalidates the bullish trend line. We've driven up, we pumped, we had this mapped out with the members ready because we knew this was going to happen. It drove up, brought in that euphoria. Now there's a huge amount of liquidations down below. Now, a weekly candle, these are weeklies by the way, this is why I only focus long term. We have rejected and reversed. We've pushed up, we had the pump, the euphoric drive, we've wick fished, we're now dumping. Same over here, same over here. This is why we took our profits off the table, because we had a good feeling this may happen. You also need to understand crucial levels over here, support, broken, resistance. Very simple stuff, lower lows, lower highs. Now what happens when you spice things up a bit and throw a Fibonacci in the mix alongside this factor, I personally believe this is the strongest sign we have right now that this market could be going much lower. A, B, C, 28, 20,000. Ether, not as clean as the others, but again, A, B, C, perfect. 1300, 1800. Take that as you wish. I think we're going to go a bit lower towards 1,000. XRP. Now this is the interesting one. What have I always said? 20 cents. Always said 20 cents since the beginning. A, B, C, D. Aligns with the lows down here. So at this very point in time, what I'm trying to get to is a single swing lower will very likely bring these downside targets in. And that's why I'm playing the long-term game now. LTC, again, not as clean as some of the others, but the reason LTC has given me a stronger bias, I told you guys when we were up here, I think we're going to go back to a $60 LTC, and I now personally think that's much lower. I'm not going to say the exact prices, neither am I for any of them, if that will be for members only, but this kind of maps out in a nutshell exactly what's going on right now. The bullish structure, gone, broken. Crucial trend lines, all of them got annihilated, and that was designed to trick people. And now we've fulfilled this movement here. I don't really care what happens in between now, because my main focus is either any swings higher, I take more profit. If we dump into these levels, there's going to be some very aggressive buying going on. And potentially, even once this is fulfilled, I think we will swing up again, and then we will go even further. So I think we're going to start bottoming out very soon. I don't really care where. I'm not going to say where just yet, but I'm hoping this can be a good illustration for all of you to start seeing this from a very different perspective. And if we do flip all of these charts upside down, remember these are the weeklies, so these are very, very crucial time frames. Flip these all upside down. I mean, would you look at that and go, oh my God, this is bearish? No. If this was the real way the charts were right now, you would very likely be looking at this and be thinking, oh my God, we're about to go to the moon. Well, this is where you need to detach from the kind of euphoria that crypto brings in and start coming back to your senses slightly, because as I said, it may be too late if you're not taking some profits off the table. Now, I could be completely wrong. I could be absolutely wrong, and suddenly we just blow through the roof and go to 100k BTC, XRP goes to 7 million tomorrow, the court case settles and all of that stuff. But I don't care about any positive news. I'm not bullish yet. I'm bullish when we go to the bottom. And any of this stuff that's going on in the market right now, if you understand technicals, it's very likely going to tell you where this market's going to go next anyway. So I think the main purpose of this video really is to just let you guys know that it is a very risky time in the market right now. You need to be incredibly careful. We've got the profit taken now. We're in a very comfortable position and there's no physical way we can lose. I do not care if the market goes higher. I'll simply take more profit out. If XRP suddenly pumped even more, I haven't lost anything because the HODL portfolio will rocket in value. I'll make several more million and I'll take out some of that from the main HODL portfolio as well. But the whole purpose here is to play the cycles with the active trading pot, leaving the HODLs on the side for a later date. Because once this is all said and done, if everything starts coming through how we expect, which at the moment does look to be the case, we are going to invest heavily. And what I'm going to do over time is slowly flip those holdings. As you guys know, I wanted to take this from 200k XRP to over 1 million. And now we are very, very realistically on track to achieve that goal. A single swipe down lower and I could potentially achieve this goal once and for all. But I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to continue the transparency. And I'm going to continue trying to flip this even further. And eventually that's going to be shifted over to my main holdings. And then I'll probably start the journey again with something new. But I do genuinely believe, instead of looking at this as a negative, saying it's FUD, calling me a bear, saying I'm wrong, saying I was bearish the whole cycle, no. I was simply just expecting the downside the entire cycle whilst profiting from the entire bullish cycle. Difference is, you prepare for this stuff. And if it does come through now, it's going to be horrible for many people. And I hope everyone has at least taken something off the table. It's a security measure and it ensures you are making money even in bear markets, which at this point in time, I would say basically a bear market at this point. But I don't really like to put labels on it. Bullish, bearish, I really don't care. I'm simply just analyzing technicals here. I'm looking at where I believe price will go. And just from showing you this simple kind of setup across all of the charts, hopefully it's given you a bit of an insight into looking at this in the opposing way, because there's some very threatening signals being presented from the market right now. And considering this stuff's all happening regulation wise next week as well, you guys need to be careful because a lot of these altcoins could be near the bottom in a single swing down. BTC and F, $1,000, $20,000, that's not the very bottom for these just yet, but overall just consider it could get a lot worse. And I wouldn't really be expecting an alt season until we see this all bottom out in the first place. So hope you guys have found this valuable, beneficial. Hope you guys have enjoyed the update. I'm going to start doing more videos as well, crypto related. Doesn't always have to be a simple breakdown. Could be individual coins, could be some educational content as well. Whatever you guys kind of want, please let me know. I'm just in a motivated mode at the moment. I'm just happy. Things have played out how it has, sorry. I'm glad that all of our members have made a lot of money, saved a lot of money, and I'm hoping anyone that isn't a member has still managed to achieve some form of success from our videos and put themselves in a good position. I literally cannot wait to see what's going to happen next. It looks absolutely perfect. I may be wrong, but hey, we've been right so far. So let's see how it goes. Thank you for watching, guys. I cannot wait for the next video already.